For sure. Hey, are you good technically on your side
Yeah,
with
we're
the
we're
videos?
100% ready to go.
All right, sounds good. And just to confirm, because I'm gonna reference it, you're streaming this on YouTube, right?
Which channel? YouTube, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Solo TV.
All right, got it. All right. All right, welcome everyone. I'm really excited today for a special episode of Roofer Reflections, and I have Ted here. And I have to say, this is a first for us because we're streaming live on LinkedIn and Twitter. But Ted's got a setup, and Ted's going on YouTube at the same time. So I'm really excited about this. So welcome, Ted.
Thanks for having us.
So that's awesome. You obviously get social media, utilizing it in your business. So lends me to think you're kind of an early adopter, pioneer in many things that you do. Give me your background a bit.
So background, sure. Came from working class, blue collar home. My dad was a crane operator, turned to mechanic. One day, fire chief in town asked him to fix one of the fire trucks. Father says, sure. Slowly realizes there's a business model in that. Obviously, I'm the son of an entrepreneur, which means I was forced basically to work. Right? No baseball games and basketball games. So from the age of like 8, if you want a business, you have children, they help, right? So happy to do it. Learned so much along the way. I always joke that I got like 2 educations: one at school, one at home, and the one at home definitely has served me better in life as far as business and people, all of it, right? So as a young man, I watched all the things that my parents didn't do correctly, unfortunately, and one of them was marketing. Ideas, things like this, right? Working with other people in the same field, they were very like territorial, we'll say, right? So they didn't do a lot of collaboration like we're doing right now. And the result is they never really grew the way they should have. So I saw a lot of things I didn't like growing up and applied it to what I enjoyed, which was construction. So went to trade school, and you may or may not know this, but back in the 90s, when you applied to go to a trade school, they didn't take the bright stars of tomorrow. They took the kids that fool around a lot, might have got kicked out a little too often. I happen to be one of those kids. But I excelled in my trade because I was so consumed by how fun it was for me. It was carpentry, construction management. And I've pretty much been doing that since. Get out of high school, went back to the garage for a little bit, realized when I was 20, this is not for me. I'm not doing the garage thing. I love people who can do that because I can't. So massive respect to those folks. Can't do it. So love being outside, love constantly changing job sites. Started doing residential construction, moved to commercial, moved to civil industrial, and then realized solar is where things are going. So use my background in construction and have all the master licenses. So it just seemed like a pretty easy maneuver into the solar industry. And that was back in 2015. Here we are.
Yeah, I mean, you have a few businesses. I mean, you had the entrepreneurial family background. How easy for was it for you to move into it? I mean, if I feel like it kind of
So
like you did it yourself, kind of like in your own way.
I'll be honest. When I look at the statistics here, and of course there's always a fluctuation, percentage points here and there, but it seems like the majority of people who start businesses in this country aren't even born in this country. They're either immigrants or children of immigrants. It's something crazy, like 8 out of 10 people who start a business in this country weren't born here or are children of first generation immigrants. So that means only 20% of the people who are born have some lineage here, some multiple generations. They don't see the advantage we have here. It's crazy to me that people come here, they see it, they instantly jump on it, and they get their family to grow into it too. That aside, growing up, I think being where I come from, middle class family, suburban area outside of Worcester, Mass. I think watching my parents do it made it less scary, right? I think it just made it like more natural, like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And again, like I said earlier, like watching that education of all the things I didn't like and all the things I did like, using that complied with removal of fear of like we should start a business. Oh, it's scary. Like to me, it was a normal progression Typical 1980s, 1990s father. He's a drill instructor in the Marines, so you can pretty much guess what my childhood was like. But had the very competitive, like, oh, you'll be back in 6 months, which only made me want to work insanely hard to prove him wrong, which thankfully I did. But the adaptation of this and what we're doing right now makes it so much easier for almost anyone to begin a business. And I can't for the life of me figure out why, with all of this at our fingertips. I mean, these things right here, right? This makes it so easy and so rewarding on top of it, because now you get to meet people you would never normally converse with and spend time with, learn with. This has been phenomenal to a point where I think this is the thing that should be taught in school, right? Like how to do this, how to network, how to use social media to your advantage. And I think it needs to be taught in high school.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, a lot of people try to start one businesses, but you're sitting with multiple businesses. How did that happen? How did it evolve? And what was the adversity?
So, I mean, mine are all tied together. They're all vertical integrations, right? So we have Roof Wolf, which plays really well with solar, right? So we started the solar thing, obviously my background. But with that, it just became super easy because it seemed like 1 out of every 7 solar installs we were doing, the houses need a roof. And to tell you how many people would say, like, we only got their business because 3 or 4 other companies wouldn't or weren't able to or wouldn't even bid on doing the roof. Having a general contracting background seemed like a no-brainer to me. So let's try it. So we started doing all types of roofs, right? We started doing slate roofs, which at that time nobody was putting solar on slate roofs. We were, I think, one of the first few. We were happy to do it. I love the challenge. Going back to my early years in construction, in summers here, weekends, I'd work for roofers when I could. One of the first roofs I did was a slate roof. And it's very late 1980s in construction. There was no HR department, and you worked for somebody in their 50s, 60s, or 70s, and they threw hammers at you or shingles or yelled at you. Like that was very, very normal then, and people I don't think realize that today. So that kind of gave me a little bit of an advantage. It also gave me a little bit of that, like, I can do that kind of attitude. So when I started to look at opening up a second business here, it just made it was totally logical, right? Because we're already doing it. We're already up on the roofs. Why not give these folks a new roof? And then if you look at the IRS code, there's a portion in there, and I am definitely not an accountant, but there's a portion in there that says if the area under where you're putting the solar panels, if you have to replace the roof because it is of age, you can get a tax credit for the roof too. Light bulb moment. Why aren't all solar companies doing roofs and vice versa, right? Well, because you need licensed master electricians, you need roofers. It's a culmination of things there, but to me it just made sense. We're already on the roof, right? Why not fully service the client? Give them a roof, peace of mind that, hey, you don't have a brand new 25-year warranted solar array that's going to be on your roof that's already 20 years old, right? Because that's happening too much. We get a lot of calls for retros. So we did the roofing, secondary. I've always had real estate and investment properties. I've always done that since I bought my first duplex when I was 20. So to me, that made a lot of sense. That's a separate business altogether. And then we're hoping, obviously COVID changed a lot of things and whatnot, but we're hoping to launch our plumbing division late this year. And that's going to be Aqua Wolf Plumbing. So there's a wolf theme, which ties everything in for marketing and branding, which guys like us, we understand the value of, right? And then having the pipeline where if you service a client correctly in one of your businesses, and you have spokes in a wheel of multiple vertical integrations, then you can go back to those same folks and be like, hey, look, if you need some HVAC work or you need a roof done or you need some plumbing fixed, you've already worked with us in the past, you trust us, we've hit the mark for you, allow us to keep doing that and deliver the value. So it's how you think you can scale, wide and deep, right?
Yeah, I mean, having all these things happening, I'm curious, how do you view leadership and your leadership style?
So I I have a partner. Taylor Bennett is she's a partner of mine. She's great at everything I'm not. Right. Stepping away from the ego moment thing of like, I'm great at everything. I know what I'm terrible at, and I definitely don't try to do anything that I'm terrible at. I just bring in amazing people around me that understand the passion, know where we're going, see like the end goal where we're all trying to go here. And ultimately, I like to hire people with a moral compass because there are way too many, this, there are way too many people right now who are just, in solar was quite possibly one of the biggest vehicles for this, which was gouge somebody with pricing. There's been a lot in the first especially in the first 3 to 5 years of sign contracts, take the deposits, never see you again, right? Massive problem in any construction industry. Roofing, same thing. Solar, same thing. So we have people who are focused on one of our interview questions here for our sales guy, for our sales director here. He asks people in a very straight face, "Will you lie for me?" And waits to see what you say, because if you're going to say yes, we don't want you, right? So having people with a moral compass, they're all focused on the same goal, which is super transparent in this building for us anyway. And hiring people that are detail orientated and obsessed with hitting goals and things that you're not good at. So for me, my leadership style is, I know this gets said a lot lately, it's like the cool thing to say, but if you're here, you get it. I like to think that we're all working together. Like, that's like, duh. But it's super, super simple to think like, look, somebody has to be out front, take the hits when things go bad. I have no problem doing that. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
I'm also the guy that will jump up on the roof. I know we were running flip flops. I wouldn't normally do it, but like, I'll literally just drop whatever I'm doing and get up on the roof with the guys, start wiring things, whatever I need to do it. If I need to do spreadsheets, then I'll bring my laptop with me, and in the pickup truck, I'll do spreadsheets on a job site. Like, whatever I need to do. You know this. People say, like, what do you do? Like, the answer is whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Right?
You got me so curious about that interview question. So, when you asked, or your sales director asked that question, I mean, what percentage of what's the split? Like, when some people say, yeah, if it's the right thing, or maybe people say, how does that play out?
The real answer, we have had a few people say it, they don't work here. So if somebody's willing to answer that question and lie to homeowners, they can go work at a competitor, because that is a certain type of, what is it saying? Like, water keeps a boat afloat, but it also sinks it if you allow it in. Like, that's what we try to do as best as possible, is try to keep the I guess the cancer culture, right? Which is like those who rot from the inside, keep those people away, right? And you try to do that as best as possible in the screening process. Sometimes people get through, and you remove them as soon as possible, because if you've spent, like I've spent, this is going on our 6th year now, bringing in amazing people through trial and error, right? We've hired a lot of people, we've gone through some people, and through trial and error, you do what you got to do to keep, however you can, the great people with you that are helping you propel this whole dream. And the last thing you want to do is hire one person because they can make an extra $1 million in revenue, but they're going to rot everyone's morale and everyone's passion. You remove those people, regardless of the cost. So, you might be able to move the needle an extra $1 million or $2 million for revenue, but if you're going to slowly over time ruin the whole company, ain't worth it. You got to go now.
Yeah, for sure. Now, with all this going on, do you have time for other hobbies, or is just your work your hobby at this point?
I am work obsessed. People like to say, like, what's your work-life balance like? I am married to a super incredibly understanding woman. I have 4 children, and they thankfully are super incredibly amazing and understanding too. So much so that I'm so obsessed with work, and my wife totally understands it. That I actually, unfortunately, I missed my my youngest son's birth by about an hour because I was in Pittsburgh. But there's no such thing as like work-life balance. Like, it's BS for high performance people. I think you need to look at it as a work-life equation, right? Like, what can you live with, And if you're willing to have that discussion with your significant other, your partner, and say, hey, look, if I spend the next 3 to 7 years for us in the trenches, we hardly see each other. We see each other when we have to and everything else. But if I spend 3 to 7 years of in the trench doing what I need to do, that will make the rest of our lives so much more easy to enjoy the things we want to do, like travel and like donate money. Like one of the things my wife and I want to do before we leave pass on is to leave a wing on a not-for-profit hospital. That's going to take a lot of money, so that's why I'm busy.
Yeah, for sure. Now you mentioned entrepreneurship and family. Like, are any of your kids of age to be involved? Are they involved in the business in any way?
So, I have twin 8-year-old girls,
Yeah.
and they're what's called mirror twins, identical mirror twins. They are, if you put them face to face, one has hair that parts on the left, one has hair that parts on the right, right? One's left-handed, one's right-handed. And it's funny because they could not be more different, right? One wants to be a princess mermaid, the other one wants to go to construction work with dad, right? She wants to work boots and hard hat. And that one, I'll come home once or twice a week. She'll have blueprints drawn up for me, like, adorable blueprints. An 8-year-old, she's going to be 8 in next week, but adorable blueprints from me. And to say, like, it's cute, right? But like, I have these things hanging up in my bedroom, my office. I keep photos. Like my screen photo is of my children. That helps. And to say that that's what keeps me going, because I mean, if you ask some of the team here, I will stay and I will work 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row. Not uncommon. To say that doesn't help when I have that on my desk, it's incorrect, right? It moves me and motivates me. It's not about like competition anymore. It's about like what can I leave behind for them. That's what's really pushing me right now.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the stuff you're doing sounds amazing. Is there a point where health and come into play, like with that stuff?
So I'm 41 now. I've been going at this pace probably about a year and a half longer than I should have. I'd like to go at this pace another year and then really wind down to about 55, 65 hours a week. To answer your question, yes. I'll be honest. 3.5 years in, I started to get some serious burnout because I was legitimately doing 115 hours a week every single week. To go back when we started this, I worked 1,700 and it was 1,794 days or 64 days in a row before I took a day off. About 3.5 years in, I started to get some serious burnout. I'll get back to the numbers, but I have the numbers in days in a row. About 200 to 300 days, 2/3 of a year or so before I hit this, I'm going to take a day off. I need to slow down.
Yeah.
I hit a wall, and it was people here didn't really get to see it because I worked from home for a few days, but it came to a point where I started to feel like real mental exhaustion. Like I wasn't even adding one and one together correctly, right? And that's where I think having an amazing partner at home to reach out and say, okay, look, you're Superman, I get it. You need to cut it out because you're going to leave us far too early at this pace. And she was right, because I started to have heart palpitations, and I had like, I started to get like a clone, is version of like ajna, right? So I had to pull back, and I did, and it went down to about 75, 85 hours a week, and it helped. So yeah. I'm happy where I am right now. I got about another year at this pace, and then I think I'm going to go down to about 55, 60 hours a week, thereabouts. And I'll probably level off there somewhere because I need to work. I need to do something.
Yeah, I mean that first day, like you're going so hard that you took off. What did you do? Like, what was the first thing? Like, did you just sit there? Like, what did you end up doing when you weren't working?
So, I was working at a company that was doing deep, like deep sewer mains. Like if you want to, if a town or a city needs to replace a sewer main on Main Street where there's a lot of traffic, need to keep the street open, but they're also, the sewer mains are also down 18 feet, 26 feet. That's high risk. That's a lot of planning. So I was working at this company. Excuse me. I had a former classmate reach out and say, "Hey, look, I'm in Florida. I'm doing solar. What do you think about doing it?" And I don't know a damn thing about solar, to be honest with you. Long story short, I got into it. I put the money up, and we get going. And I'm doing this while I'm working at another place. And I actually brought the owner, the gentleman I was working for. I said, "Hey, look, here's what I'm getting into. There's room if you're interested." And I got fired within about a week of that. I got fired for bringing it to him. Which I thought was weird. I thought it was I thought it was very strange that I was trying to do something like I didn't have to. I could have just kept it in my, did a nice little side hustle and had it going. But I thought I'd do the right thing, bring it to somebody I respect, and I got fired for it. And I'd say it came full circle though when we made the Inc. 500. When we started from nothing. We started from literally in a closet, and then we built it and hit that, and then we became bigger than they were, and in a substantial less amount of time. So that was like the cherry on top. That was the felt good moment. But you can't stay there. You have to like, okay, enough patting yourself on the back and get going, because if you stay there, you'll lose everything. You got to go.
Yeah.
For
sure.
But first day, your question, first day was first. I'll say this: first full-time day. The reason I said all that was to say this: the first full-time day was I just started writing down ideas. I didn't research solar. I just started writing down ideas, and then I broke those ideas into segments like marketing. What should I do for marketing? Back in 2015, Google Maps allowed anybody to edit the map. So I knew SEO was a really important thing. I'm not tech savvy at all, but I knew SEO was, I didn't know how to do it, but I knew like if I just dropped a pin as anywhere that Google would let me, right? And it helped because to this day, we still get calls in states that we're now actually in, but I just wanted the SEO run and people to see the website, right? Because how am I going to compete with then Solar City, right? How am I going to compete with Musk and billions of dollars and shareholders? So guerrilla marketing. 3 days after we started the company, on October 18th, if you look at our channel, it was created on October 18th, 2015. We started the company in October 15th, 2015. So within 3 days, I realized the power of this, and I knew that this is where it was going. And I just had all the ideas that I could possibly think of. And I just started to go. And I was so obsessed. I was so obsessed with trying to get this as far as I could get it, that I wasn't hungry. I didn't want to sleep. I didn't want to go to the bathroom. I just wanted to stay at my desk and pound away and work. And almost 6 years later, I was up this morning at 3 a.m. working. My alarm set for 3:30, so I'm still obsessed.
Yeah. So, in the past, when you started this thing, you were thinking about the future. And we talked a little bit about it, but what do you see the future overall with the industry, what you're doing? Paint me a picture of where you see things going.
So for the industry, obviously batteries, right? Batteries are where this is all going, because I do believe that when you look at the numbers and how many people are going solar is great. And then the utility companies are coming back with, okay, so we're going to set what's called time of use, which is during the day, your rate is X. During the night, your rate is Y, because you're not generating power. And then you have net metering, which is everything you overproduce during the day, net metering states allow you to draw on and use at night. Obviously, power companies are not huge fans of this. However, legislation is there to protect the citizens and the voters, saying, hey, look, so much of your power generation has to be bought and provided from those who went solar, the early adopters. So there are people today in this country who are getting power for their house from their neighbor and may not even know it. So where it's going is batteries, because I do believe every single install in whether it be 5 years or 10 years will either have to, as a mandate, be coupled with at least one battery, or the price compression will be so great that it'll just come down and just be normal for when people buy solar, they'll just be getting a battery too, because it will just make sense, along with efficiency, right? So as the panels get more efficient, they're getting higher wattage, more efficient. I do believe that eventually we're going to get to a place where you're going to have only 1 or 3 or even 5 solar panels on your roof that will do your whole house. They might be 12 or 1300 watts per panel at 35% efficiency. This is going to be big. So when you can do that, the price becomes, I mean, people spend more money on carpet or their living room set than what this is going to end up being very, very soon as we keep going like this. Obviously, the current inflation market doesn't help, but it's cyclical, right? We know we've been through this every decade. This happens, right? We have an up, we have a down, keep going. So for the industry, where solar is going, obviously, I do believe that those of us in the solar industry right now are essentially the Standard Oil of the late 1800s, early 1900s. I think this is the electrification of the United States, if not the world. So oil, obviously going to plastics and trains and freight and whatever, that will eventually get replaced too. As far as Solar Wolf Energy, we're going to continue to develop. We're going to have a parent company. We're coming into that stage now where we're going to need it. So we're going to basically build a home brand. So we're going to have plumbing, HVAC, all the things for your home, and then eventually move out to a commercial space, so home and business, so that it's a one-stop call. And ultimately tying in financing will be the last leg of this.
Great. Well, sounds like a great vision, Ted. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thanks for having us on today. Do